Welcome into the Mountaineers Now postgame show presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. That's Christopher Hall. I'm Schuyler, Callihan. West Virginia falling to the UMass Minutemen 87-79 in the Basketball Hall of Fame Classic. A quick look here at the numbers. West Virginia, oddly enough, shot well from three-point range, but it wasn't enough. Obviously, they went 14 of 31 from deep. The big problem is they only went 9 of 12 from the free throw line, and that's one area that everyone had their eyes on coming into this game. UMass was one of the worst teams in the country in sending their opponents to the charity stripe, but they only got there 12 times, part of because Jesse Edwards did not play much here in this game due to the wrist injury and some foul trouble. Kerr Kriisa, in his Mountaineer official debut, 20 points on 6 of 15 shooting from three-point range. And Quinn Slazinski added another 20 points as well. And for UMass, it was Josh Cohen leading the way with 19 points, 7 boards, and 2 steals. So, Chris, initial thoughts here on this one?
Transition defense has to improve. Gave up 19 in the first half, another 15 in the second half. And really that's where that first half run that UMass had came from, was in transition. And, West Virginia got out rebounded. And when you think about it, they weren't crashing the glass, so there's really no excuse for them not to get back on defense. And obviously, going to have to do a better job rebounding. Jesse was in foul trouble. It was obviously his worst game as a Mountaineer this season. So there's a lot to work on defensively for West Virginia. They gave up a lot of easy looks underneath. Of course, I don't know how you're supposed to guard in today's college basketball game underneath, because all contact is pretty much a foul. So yeah. I guess you're kind of trading off there a little bit, but got to stop the penetration, got to stop the ball in transition. And really that's it. Offensively, it looked a lot better. Got everything you expected from Kerr Kriisa, and Farrakhan came in and put in 15 points. So really, I guess we'll just kind of start there. I won't go on a full rant yet, but it's just transition defense has been a problem all season long, and it reared its ugly head again tonight against a good transition team. And that's something that Big 12 is going to run. There's far more superior athletes in the Big 12, and when they notice that, they're going to get out in front. So they got to locate the ball, communicate, get out on the wings, and stop the ball early. When you're not stopping the ball early and you allow them to go to the foul line or inside the three-point, or even at the three-point line today's age, they're going to bury it. And that's what they did. And credit to UMass for taking advantage of West Virginia's weak spot.
I'm 100% with you. I think the defense is really the issue. But 44% of your shots coming from beyond the arc is not ideal. And again, you could say, well, it's not ideal, but they hit 14 of them. But still, the aggression just wasn't there. They weren't looking to get inside the paint. It was live and die by the three-point shot. And for the most part, they made their shots, but they've got to be able to get to the basket more. They've got to be able to draw more fouls. And again, there was probably a lot of non-calls out there that probably did not help West Virginia's cause. As Josh Heller said in his radio postgame press conference, that he felt Jesse was getting hacked constantly. But I think 31 threes for this team, even if you make half of them, is way too many. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. I mean, they weren't getting the calls when they did drive the paint. Again, credit UMass for they were going to take away the paint and force you to hit from the outside, and West Virginia did. The backsides, we just talked about it, you didn't play defense. You play a little bit better defense, you get out, you stop them in transition, you probably win that game. Yeah. I don't think there was anything wrong offensively. They just didn't get the calls. But they adjusted and found their shooters. That's what you've been wanting when these teams have crashed the paint on Jesse. Jesse did a good job at times for getting the ball out to the open shooter. And we've talked about on the postgame show, hey, Jesse can't force it, just find the open shooter. Well, now you got more shooters, and you did it without Raekwon Battle as well. So I'm not too worried offensively. It's going to be sluggish. It did start off a little rough. It was a little surprising. Kriisa only had 3 turnovers. I felt like he had more. I think all 3 turnovers were just preventable too. I don't think it was anything UMass did, but it was his first game, 7 assists, 3 turnovers. Can't ask for more than that in your first game back. So offensively, I was not concerned. 31 attempts, you hit 14. That's a good solid number right there. So I'm not worried about it, especially when they take away the paint. That wasn't a concern for me. It's rebounding, and obviously the defense was just really bad.
And when they went to that 2-3 zone in the second half, that's when West Virginia made that 16-2 run to creep back into it, and they eventually tied it up. I believe they even had the lead at one point, right? They maybe took the lead by one or so. But I
I
mean,
don't think so. In the second half, they didn't take the lead;
or
they
no,
just tied
no,
it.
okay, they just tied it up. But to me, I feel like they've got to go heavy zone. And I know you don't really want to do that, but I mean, when you lack the size that you lack and you lack the rebounding that you lack, I think you've got to be able to put more bodies down there. And when you have a 2-3, when you're playing a 2-3 zone, you automatically have three guys near the basket. I think they've shown that they can play well in a 2-3 at times. I mean, credit the one kid for UMass today. Was it Davis that hit those two NBA range contested threes? I mean, if he makes that, hat off to the kid. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. But if that's how you're going to make teams beat you, I think that's kind of what they have to live off. And look, Jesse Edwards, this is what he's done for his whole college career: is play in a 2-3 zone. So assuming he's healthy, I think it makes sense to center your defense around what his strength is, especially considering how you've played in these first 10 games.
Yeah, they tried the 2-3 zone in the first half. Obviously, it didn't work. But once they got tired legs there in the second, outside of Robert Davis Jr., they struggled from the outside. And Death Taxes and West Virginia's opponent, somebody just going off from 3-point range this year, seems to be a theme. But
That's an
yeah,
every year thing, really.
it's unbelievable. This kid's a freshman. I think he made more threes a day than he had all season. So I mean, what do you do at that point? Like it's just one of
Throw
those
your hands
days.
up in the air and say, "What the hell?" I
And
mean,
then again, you got guys that came back with eligibility, and they were able to match it at times to keep that game within reach, and they did come back from the 3-point line. So they mixed it up defensively. I think they just kind of got the groove there in the second half when UMass got a little bit more tired. And I've said it on here many times between football and basketball. Sometimes the best defense is good offense, and you saw that in the second half when West Virginia started making shots. Kind of put the pressure on UMass a little bit until West Virginia started missing again, and they just kept getting more opportunities. Some of the second chance opportunities really hurt West Virginia down the stretch. So yeah, it just really right now all comes down to rebounding and defense. And I think now that you kind of got the whole collective together, you'll start to see a little bit more improvement, a little bit more communication. You wonder with the new guards, some of that communication wasn't lacking since that was their first game back all season.
I think it's not quite there yet, but I mean, when you start the season 4 and 6, you're really putting yourself against the ropes if you want to get to March. But what we saw tonight, I think you see flashes of what this team can be, offensively at least. Noah Farrakhan had a really good game, as you mentioned, his debut. Kriisa did everything that you imagined that he would do. He didn't have Raekwon Battle tonight. He was out with an illness. So, but that's my question right here is, even with Raekwon Battle, how much do you think is really going to change? Because to me, he's a great offensive player, and he's an average defensive player. I think until they figure out the defensive end and rebounding, it might just be the same show every single night to where you're just going to have to outscore people.
Yeah, it might be. It's going to be interesting lineups. I'm trying to think here what Kobe had minutes wise. You know, he only played 16 minutes tonight, so you're already finding, and he's been playing over 35 minutes a game, I believe. So
And didn't
you're
score.
all and you're already finding like, all right, so you're already getting a little heavy at guard. So the lineups are going to be interesting. Ofri's minutes went down tonight as well. So yeah, the lineups for West Virginia moving forward will be, you didn't have enough bodies, and now you got a lot of guards. So just kind of, if you're looking around the Big 12, you're probably not going to get 3 or 4 guards on the line in the lineup. I don't see Josiah Harris getting to play 4 either. So they're going to have to figure something out defensively. Rebounding has been a Achilles heel with this team. They haven't gotten out rebounded every game, but teams that they should have obliterated on the board were right there with them. So they've got to do something. That's the big area. And a night when you get everybody back and Jesse has an off night, that was killer. You really needed
Yeah,
him on both ends of the floor. But
non-existent, really.
again, some of those calls down underneath, he got in foul trouble because they just went and made contact with him. So I mean, I don't know what you do when you don't get those calls on both ends of the floor. Um, you get your big in foul trouble, it's going to hurt. He can take up two guys blocking him out as big as he is. So I don't really know the answers. That's when it hurts when you don't have depth in the front court, is when someone else can come back and step in and kind of don't have that huge drop off as they've had, because Slozinski's not a five. It's just bottom line. He's barely a four. Let's be honest about it. So
Yeah.
he's really tall. But he's had a great season as well. But defensively, he struggled at times as well. So don't know really the answers. I was going to have to kind of figure that out, especially in transition, because guys are not getting back. They're getting caught flat-footed and getting ran right by, and that should not be happening at this level.
No, I mean, especially with the talent, like I think even with the two guys that they got back tonight, you would still think the talent from top to bottom is still in favor of West Virginia. But you've got to be able to execute. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. And I don't want to say it's necessarily a lack of effort defensively. I think it's just maybe a lack of focus. I don't really know what it is. I would have to go back and rewatch it, but this was not a good
A lot
performance.
of it just has to go back with kids aren't being taught how to play defense growing up.
That's
I mean,
true.
that's really what it is. So much
Yes.
focus is on offense.
From the time
Um,
they first pick up a basketball, because this new age of kids coming in, all they do is watch the NBA and they see Steph Curry and James Harden and even LaMelo Ball. I mean, just the way he cherry picked in high school, like they don't care about defense. It's just defense doesn't get you stats, right? So
and the thing they have to, we talked about under Huggins over previous years when they played physically on the defensive end, and they would call foul after foul, and you just have to adjust. It's different every night how they're going to call the
right,
game, so they're just going to have to adjust defensively too. You can't let them go right by you just because they're calling fouls either. So you're going to have to just get in front of them. They really got to clean up officiating. They really got to do something about these rules. And it's so bad right now. For me, it's college basketball
yeah.
is such a hard watch anymore because the
I
inconsistency. There's two things that frustrate me more than anything in today's age in sports. They can call holding on every play, and then when you play an aggressive defensive team, they can call a foul every trip down the floor. Well, a foul's a foul and a hold's a hold. If you call it, they're going to stop doing it, right?
exactly.
If you keep getting penalized, they're going to stop doing it. If they keep fouling, call the damn foul and move on. Like that's
Yeah.
on them. That's not on the official to, well, we got to hold back on foul calling because they're going to foul. It's a silly nonsense way to look at it. So that's not what UMass did at all. I thought UMass played well defensively, but I just don't think the whistle favored West Virginia. Not the reason they lost, but you have to adjust of how they're calling the game that night, and they just did a very poor job defensively adjusting.
And from someone that watches and covers the NBA, and I know this sounds crazy for those that maybe don't follow the NBA as much, but the officiating in the NBA is actually really damn good. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
promise you,
NBA. Like, there's a lot of hate on NBA, but
there's
those
always
guys
all the
are.
traveling. No, it's not.
There's a lot. The gap between college and NBA is
Oh, it's night,
very wide.
and
Very,
it's
very.
so much
I
more
challenge
watchable.
anyone that doesn't like the NBA, go to an
Yeah,
NBA game and you'll
it's
have a full appreciation of the NBA when those guys can take three steps down the floor, and they're down the floor, and the guy's a 7 foot center, and he he can handle the ball better than you know better than average point guard in college. It's just a completely different game.
yeah. I mean, it's more watchable because of there's not the ticky tack fouls. If you get a foul in the NBA, you're gonna have to earn it, and I think that's kind of the way it
They
should
have
be.
ticky tack fouls in the NBA too. There's some. I mean,
Sometimes
the thing is
there's
with
different.
officiating, I'm not trying to hold these guys to be perfect because that's impossible. But you have to have consistency, and
Consistency,
you
right?
need consistency night in, night out. Like you can't play one night and it be physical, and the next night they're going to call every touch call. So that's really my issue. I don't think I know the NFL. I saw an article earlier I think the other day actually, that the NFL, how they have all these oversight on officials, because obviously gambling is has become very big. It's on your phone. You can do it anywhere now, and they have all this oversight on these guys. And I don't think this is the case at all. It's just they're making rules to put these guys in very tough positions to make calls. And a reminder, there's still the cylinder rule
Yeah,
out there. It
I was
still
just about to
exists.
say
Never
the
see
rule
it
that
called
has
now.
no boundaries. It's
Yeah,
just there.
and
It's
they never
invisible.
call it. They never call
Yeah,
it now. That was a big thing during Press Virginia. It's still out there, but they've even added to that. So you're putting these guys in positions to make ridiculous calls. So it's not really on the officials. Surprisingly, it's on the NCAA. Shocking. So they need to do, along with
Color me
everything
shocked.
else, along with everything else they need to do. That's something they really need to clean up, because the rule,
Yeah.
like, you need a team of lawyers to figure out every rule in the NCAA, and one of them should not be the NCAA rule book on the floor. Like, it's crazy how these things are written, how they're interpreted, and they're interpreted differently by different officials. Like, that should not be the case. It should be clear cut, black and white. This is what the rules are. Let's call it the way you see it. We're not doing the, hey, they foul, you trip down the floor, we're just going to randomly call it. Call it if it's a foul, and that team will have to adjust.
So to wrap us up here, 3 non-conference games left before we get into the meat and grind of the Big 12 schedule. You got Radford coming up on Wednesday. That's at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Then you have Toledo next Saturday, and then you have a week off in between games before you take on Ohio State in the Legends of Basketball Showcase. So, I mean, ideally you'd like to go 3-0 here, but let's keep it realistic. If what does West Virginia need to go in these 3 games to kind of stay somewhat alive, even if it's a long shot for the NCAA tournament?
3-0. I mean, you got to start winning games. You can excuse
Yeah.
this one because everyone got back for the first game, but now let's go. The next game is what, Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah.
Got to get it going. Got
Good
to get it
Radford
rolling.
team, too.
Yep. Got to get it going. Got to get it rolling. Got to win your game. I mean, at this point, you got to win all your home games. And that's just kind of the hole that they were put in. And they're going to have to fight back. I feel a lot more confident in this team after seeing Kerr play. Again, I wasn't not surprised by it, but want to see what Battle can do, and can they fix their defense? But I think that's their first thing they got to do when they get back to Morgantown. It's like, hey, let's look at the defense. Stop standing flat-footed. Get out there on the ball. Like,
Yep.
it's just baffles me that they wait for the ball to pass them by before they react. Like, I don't know how anytime you've watched basketball, that's your effort there. So not effort, but that's how you execute your defense. So I don't think it's an effort problem. I just think a lot of it is just they really haven't been taught how to play defense. I know Patino, before we played St. John's, was going off about his defense, saying the same thing. Kids aren't taught defense. Like, I thought these guys didn't play defense. They just have no clue how to play defense. And it sounds so silly, but it's true. Just watch college basketball.
It's
Like, there's
everywhere.
just kids just have no clue how to move their feet. Footwork in every sport. If you're teaching a kid, footwork's the main thing you should be working on. Keep your feet under yourself. That way you can move quickly and get vertical and stay in front of the ball, make it a tough shot. And that's basically all you can do defensively. You're not going to really lock anybody down. Just make sure that they get a tough shot and avoid the contact.
Yeah, so we got a few days here. We'll see if Raekwon makes his Mountaineer debut on Wednesday. I would assume he would, but we'll see. Again, West Virginia taking on the Radford Highlanders Wednesday at 7 o'clock on Big 12 Now and ESPN Plus, and that's again at 7 o'clock. Big one there for West Virginia. They got to get back in the win column, and as you said, maybe go 3-0 in these next 3 games. So we'll have the coverage for you for that. No shows tomorrow, as it's Sunday, and then we'll have Between Ears on Monday, Tuesday, no Between Ears on Wednesday since it's signing day. But we will have the National Signing Day special. It'll be me, Chris, Eugene, and a couple of signees that will be on there for you. So we'll dissect that whole 2024 football recruiting class and see what the Mountaineers will be bringing in on the football side of things. So that'll do it for us here tonight on the Mountaineers Now postgame show presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. For Christopher Hall, I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you Monday on Between Ears.